The following program is rated M for a mature audience. It contains coarse language.
A new history war has erupted over the statue of Captain Cook in Hyde Park. The inscription says he discovered this territory. And with the rise of the Anti-Australia Day movement, Indigenous leaders are now voicing their anger. They say the inscription, at the very least, should be changed.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And who would have thought that changing the words on a plaque could blow up into a full-scale history war? But in Australia's current political climate, it seems anything can start one. And last Thursday, News Corp's raucous Sydney tabloid leapt straight to DEFCON 1.
Aussie Taliban.
PC vandals bid to tear down our history.
No, the Taliban in Australia? You'd better believe it, as the Daily Telly told its readers.
The groundswell of PC activists threatening to tear down or alter Sydney monuments to founding fathers such as Captain Cook and Arthur Phillip have been likened to the worst extremes of rewriting history.
And it wasn't just the Taliban the Telly had in mind.
Aboriginal leader Warren Mundine likened the trend to a Stalinist approach,
While the paper's editorial writers raised the ghost of Chairman Mao.
Some have suggested all this is similar to China's Cultural Revolution.
Yes, indeed. Millions of innocent people will soon die and will all be forced into the countryside. It's clearly that serious. And the Telly even had a map of where the revolution will start, with a list of Sydney monuments that could be torn down, including Captain Cook, Lachlan Macquarie, Arthur Phillip, and J.F. Archibald, founder of the Bulletin magazine, summing it up unwittingly with a flash of genius and no trace of irony.
History versus hysteria. The stupidity is monumental.
Yes, indeed. So, who was putting the dynamite under these monuments? Answer, no one. But in the wake of the Charlottesville riots in the United States, where statues of slavery advocates have been toppled, the ABC's Indigenous Affairs editor Stan Grant had mused about whether Australia should follow suit.
America tears down its racist history, we ignore ours. Captain Cook's statue stands in the centre of our biggest city. There are Indigenous people who, for good reason, would prefer to see it removed. Personally, I accept that it remains.
Grant did not call to remove or deface any monuments, as he made clear on this and subsequent occasions.
I'm not saying tear down the statue, but clearly he didn't discover Australia. Aboriginal people have been here.
But he did suggest the rubric could be changed.
The inscription reads, "Discovered this territory, 1770. Grant wants it changed to something like, explored this territory, 1770. Or it might include mention of the first Australians here 60,000 years before Cook."
Yet outraged commentators were soon accusing Grant of wanting to wipe out our history.
OK, there is more statue madness this morning.
Well, here we go again, Carl. These Chardonnay socialists, this latte-sipping people in Balmain and Potts Point and, St Kilda and West End.
But I will not stand here and be told that the people who helped build the modernity of which we live in today are people who should be wiped from our collective history.
Also busy stirring the possum was Prime Minister in exile Tony Abbott, who without any foundation now accused Labor leader Bill Shorten of a secret plan to tear our monuments down.
You can just imagine all the statues of Captain Cook being taken down, all the statues of Governor Phillip being taken down. You can imagine that all sorts of weird and wonderful things will happen.
The key word there is imagine, but even Ben Fordham wouldn't cop that claim.
It's a bit mischievous of you, isn't it, Mr Abbott, to suggest that statues of Captain Cook would be torn down if Bill Shorten was to become Prime Minister? He's never suggested anything like that.
Oh, look, just the other day he was very lukewarm in his defence of Australia Day.
It was a rare moment of fact-checking in this whole sorry saga, as the rhetoric soared further and further from reality, led by usual suspects like News Corp and Sky News commentator Andrew Bolt.
Somehow, this country, once famous for having zero tolerance for bull, has developed a Taliban left. You remember the Taliban, OK?
But even the Prime Minister, who's struggling in the polls, was also happy to engage in the name-calling, branding Grant's suggestion totalitarian on his Facebook page and telling 3AW's Neil Mitchell,
"We can't get into this sort of Stalinist exercise of trying to white out, or obliterate or blank out parts of our history."
Yes, Stalin, Mao and the Taliban, with the blood of, 60 million people, or would it be 100 on their hands? And all because one journalist suggested that Captain Cook's inscription might be changed. And despite Grant insisting he did not want any monuments torn down.
I don't think it's a case of pulling down statues, and that my argument has been we need to have a discussion about our history.
A discussion in the Australian media? You'll be lucky. And come the weekend, the chance seemed even more remote after a number of Sydney statues were attacked.
Targeted were statues of Colonial Governor Lachlan Macquarie, Queen Victoria, and this one of Captain Cook, already at the centre of attention for what's written on it.
Which led Grant to condemn the actions as forcefully as anyone.
That's appalling. It's vandalism. If we can't have this conversation in a country democratically and respectfully, then it is just disgraceful.
And talking of discussions, let's move to another hot-button issue and the upcoming survey on same-sex marriage, where in this example the hair-trigger outrage is coming from the left.
Melbourne streets plastered with homophobic posters ahead of plebiscite.
Homophobic posters with the slogan "Stop the Fags" are circulating on the streets of Melbourne.
Last week, campaigners for marriage equality were aghast at reports that the City of Melbourne was being papered with a homophobic poster which claimed that
92% of children raised by gay parents are abused. 51% have depression. 72% are obese.
There is no doubt it was hateful, offensive and just plain wrong. But all we had for evidence that it was part of a citywide hate campaign was this one tweeted picture.
Spotted in Melbourne, Heffernan Lane. How is this for a unity moment?
Yet it was soon widely accepted by Pedestrian, the Women's Weekly, the Daily Mail and many others that the flyers were everywhere.
Stop the fags. Horrific homophobic posters showing men holding rainbow nooses appear in laneways as the country prepares for gay marriage postal vote.
And it was soon dominating the news on TV too.
The Prime Minister has defended the rights of people opposed to same-sex marriage to freely voice their views in public.
The latest posters found in Melbourne attacking the safety and health of children raised by gay parents.
So what are you going to do to protect these vulnerable kids? Because your respectful debate, with all due respect, is in the toilet.
All the media, except 10 News, used the same photo from the same tweet. So, given that we've been assured by some media that the posters were all over Melbourne, had anybody actually checked? And was there in fact more than one? Well, not according to the City of Melbourne, who told Media Watch.
A City of Melbourne officer was sent to investigate on Monday morning but did not find the poster. Our officers were asked to keep a lookout for any similar posters, but as yet have not observed any posted in the municipality.
Strangely, that wasn't mentioned in much of the coverage, even though Melbourne City had made it clear. And as BuzzFeed pointed out, even the original tweeter who had started the hue and cry hadn't actually seen the poster in situ.
Leach McGill revealed it wasn't him who first took the photo, but a friend who snapped it on Thursday night and sent it to him via text-to-tweet to the council.
So we had one photo, no posters and no first-hand witnesses. And while we're certainly not suggesting it was all made up, it's pretty clear the media were way out of line in suggesting the posters were all over Melbourne. Which brings us to 10 News and this photo, which is quite clearly a fake. As you can see, it's remarkably similar to this stock image from Getty, taken by a Spanish photographer of a bus stop in Europe. And 10 has just photoshopped the poster into the hole. Naughty, naughty. As 10 explained to Media Watch.
The poster in question had been taken down when our film crew visited the laneway in question, so we were forced to source a copy online. Unfortunately, an oversight in briefing our graphics department interstate may have created a false impression about its size and location. This was not a deliberate attempt to mislead our audience, but a creative error, which we regret.
And so you should. And while we're on the subject of the danger of using stock images, here is another cautionary tale. Back in 2015, in the Irish referendum on marriage equality, the No campaign ran this photo of a happy heterosexual couple with the banner headline,
Vote No.
The couple and their baby boy were not famous, but were in a stock image from a photo library, and it soon transpired they'd been wheeled into action for the No Brigade without seeking their consent or checking their views.
Couple denounce use of their image on no campaign posters. Man and woman completely support same-sex marriage. They were surprised and upset to see that the photo was being used as part of a campaign with which they do not agree.
And the Vote No campaign in Australia has now repeated the trick in slightly more spectacular fashion. Last week it posted this image of a hip-looking young woman on its Facebook page with the slogan,
"My vote is no. You need to let it go."
But in this case, not only had they not checked her views or sought her consent, which is bad enough, but they'd used someone famous, America's young Grammy award-winning singer Meghan Trainor, who's advocated on social media, along with many other celebrities, for change.
Vote yes for marriage equality. Love is love.
Whoops. So, how on earth did they screw up? Well, stupidity for starters. But one of Meghan Trainor's biggest hits is a song called No.
My name is No, my sign is no, my number is no. You need to let it go, you need to let it go, need to let it go.
So, no prizes for guessing where the tagline came from. But it wasn't long before Meghan was being alerted on Twitter to how she and her lyrics were being employed.
Did you realise that your face was being used in Australian anti-gay marriage propaganda?
And not long after that, she was firing back.
I support marriage equality. So wrong. Not okay.
And it soon blew up into a news story on a number of sites in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and even New York's Daily News.
Meghan Trainor slams Australian anti-marriage equality ad that used her image without permission.
We doubt it will be the last time that something like this happens in the campaign. And finally, to journalism Daily Mail style, in which you publish first and check the facts later. So, what is the story?
ABC shares map of the Middle East but fails to label Israel as Jewish leader accuses broadcaster of doing the dirty work for Islamists.
Yes, the ABC is showing its bias again by wiping Israel off the map. Outrageous. And as you can see, there is no doubt about it. But what was the ABC story actually about?
Lebanon is the latest in a series of countries in the region to abolish the marriage loophole for rapists.
Yes, the ABC was reporting that Lebanon had overturned a law that bizarrely allowed rapists to escape punishment if they married their victims. And the ABC wasn't the only one to run it, with it also appearing in The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and even the Daily Mail.
Lebanon scraps controversial law which allowed rapists to walk free if they married their victims.
But 2 days is obviously an age in the Mail's hectic newsroom, and clearly no one bothered to watch the ABC report, because if they had, they'd have known that the nations in blue are where this law has been abolished, and the nations in yellow are those that still have it on their books. And Israel was not on the map because it never had the offending statute. But the Daily Mail didn't know that because it had ripped the story straight from a Facebook post by Melbourne-based pro-Israeli activist Avi Yemeni, who accused the ABC of
literally doing the Islamists' dirty work for them.
And who demanded,
we must defund these traitors immediately.
The Daily Mail faithfully repeated Yemeni's claims and others he'd made in their rip-and-read story, including the suggestion that the exclusion of Israel from the map was designed to deny Israel's right to exist, and designed, quote,
to appeal to the Jew-hating crowd.
So, did the Daily Mail seek a response from the ABC before posting the story? Well, yes, it sent an email with 3 questions on Saturday evening, but with this rider at the end.
Deadline 1 hour. Any responses following my story going live, I will include as soon as I receive.
And when the ABC responded next day, that Sunday, to tell reporter Fiona Connor that her story was
wrong and makes a deeply offensive allegation.
The Mail did little more than to change the headline to this.
The ABC denies Jewish leaders' accusation that it deliberately left Israel off a map of the Middle East after he claimed the broadcaster was doing the dirty work for Islamists.
The Mail then repeated all the original allegations. It is classic tabloid behaviour. Add a denial, but repeat the slur. So we asked the Mail, which is a repeat offender in several areas of journalistic malpractice, to please explain. But we did not hear back. And you can read more about tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or Media Watch on Twitter. And make sure you catch Media Bites every Thursday. But for now, until next week, that's all from us. Goodbye.